But you know what? I think, unfortunately, I think our cameras may block a little bit of this graph. But I saw an article from Protocol. It was about mobile gaming surpassing 100 billion this year in sales so far. It's very interesting to me because I guess Newzoo, they did a per segment with year-on-year growth rates of, I guess, games in the global market. They talked about 2022, the total kind of gaming market is 203 billion globally, and mobile is currently 103.5 billion of that. That's across tablet games and smartphone games. And then console games is 58.6 billion. PC games, download and boxed PC games are 38 billion, and then PC browser games, so if you're just in the browser, that's 2.3. But I mean, majority of this chart is mobile. Over 50% is mobile. So I know we had talked about this, I think, at some point pretty recently about, mobile gaming and how it is like just kind of taking over. And I don't know, this kind of proves that point, Mike,
Yeah, I mean, I actually, side note about mobile gaming, I mean, this is going to pertain directly to year-to-year growth sales of like games, but it does tie into mobile gaming when it comes to a competitive sense. So I did do some research out of curiosity. I stumbled upon this. I think I was trying to like show something else entirely, but I was just curious. But the second most, like the biggest prize pool in 2022, the second one, well, the first one's Dota 2. The second one is PUBG on mobile at $4.5 million.
Jeez.
There were 12 tournaments over that amount. And then they got like other ones on here that I'm stunned over. Uh so they got like chess. I mean, that's super popular one, but there was another one in particular that was only a mobile game that was just nutty. Yeah, Mobile Legends Bang Bang. It's like that had close to 300,000. So, I mean, mobile games are here to stay, is what I'm really getting at here. But the one thing that I find most strange is the browser PC games dropped. That's the only one that dropped in this entire
Yeah.
graph,
Yeah, that is
and it
interesting.
was 16.9% year over year. And I wonder if it has anything to do with how like browser platforms like Instagram and Facebook, you can download the apps on like the Microsoft Store now.
Yeah.
So maybe you can play that, like you can play games through Facebook and
Yeah.
through other social media platforms. I think that might pertain to some of the reasons why it doesn't have this growth pattern either.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like most of the PC browser games, I feel like most of that's just Roblox. And I could be wrong, but I feel like it takes up a
Yeah,
majority of that
you're right.
market. And maybe Roblox is dying. I don't know. I don't play like Roblox that much, so I don't really know. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot that comes to mind for PC browser games unless you're like used to do like cool math games, if that even counts. I don't I don't know if that like is in that kind of vein where or like Newgrounds. I think used to be huge back in the day. Those are browser games, but I mean, I think overall a lot of those browser games too are like they're Flash games, right? Like Flash is what they were
Yeah.
developed on, and Flash is no longer supported. So it's like
Yeah, that actually did
that's
end last year, didn't it?
yeah, I think so. So I mean, into
That
2020 or
might be what it is.
2021, I can't remember, but I mean,
But
it was fairly recent that Flash ended, so that could be another reason why that is taking a hit. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's that's the only one that decreased out of every single platform.
you know what? You're right. It ended July 1st, 2021.
There you go.
And all those games were likely built on Flash. And they were all on major web developers like Safari, Chrome, Edge, and Firefox.
Yeah,
And then they removed it completely.
yeah. I mean, now it's all what
So,
I guess HTML based. Like most of them
yeah,
nowadays, the more modern ones, you could pretty much do what you could in Flash through just like HTML5
yeah,
and all of that. So it's like there's no point really. But
yeah, it's a good point. It basically became obsolete, which is why they got rid of it. Adobe doesn't need it anyway. They're crushing it in every other facet.
yeah,
So,
I mean they don't need it.
yeah,
Um,
but overall, how do you feel about the mobile game growth? I mean, a lot of people like hardcore PC console players are just like mobile gaming. Ew,
yeah,
that's
no,
not real.
yeah, I feel like it's always been like that. But like, I mean, everyone has a phone, so it makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? If everyone
Yeah,
had an Xbox, we'd see huge numbers out of Xbox. If everyone had a console, we would see that. So it only makes sense to me that mobile gaming is so huge. And I mean, dude, the microtransactions are so easy to sell on mobile. Like just anyone that has a phone, it's like everyone already has it, and then like there's a lot of games that just milk like microtransactions. So it doesn't surprise me. I think
Yeah.
it's those gamers are definitely the most prone to falling for those microtransactions. So
Accidentally clicking on it and stuff.
yeah, yeah, that could happen sometimes. So yeah, definitely does not surprise me. Will that number get bigger? Probably.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I don't doubt that. I
I
mean,
think every one of those numbers is going to get bigger.
yeah. What's interesting, I mean, if we look at the year over year percentages, I mean, console games had the highest growth out of all of them. Mobile games altogether had, what is that, 6.9% growth, I guess, total. So I'd seen a
Yeah, a
little bit of
lot.
growth,
Yeah.
but consoles seem slightly higher growth, which, especially those new consoles, it's becoming consoles are good, they're getting good, and but PC gaming too. I mean, 3%. I like part of me kind of wishes that was higher because like PC gaming is just the way to go. Because like even if you don't use
It's
keyboard and mouse, you use a controller, right? Like, and you just get
but
better experience.
there's one inconvenience though. You can't take it anywhere.
I mean, there's options though to that too. I would argue. I mean,
Yeah.
there's definitely portable, not only portable builds you can make, but there's also like I know like Alienware tried to get to that kind of small
Yeah, they
desktop
did.
market. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know how well they did, but
super mini ATX or whatever.
yeah, it was like is it IPX I think? It was like the tiny like
Yeah.
really small ones.
Just buy an Xbox at that point.
Yeah, I mean you really could. But yeah, I mean, I with Xbox and PlayStation, no. I know at least on PlayStation 4, and I'm sure it's still the same. You could just plug a keyboard and mouse into it, and some games support it, some games don't. Which,
Yeah.
it's fine. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good to see that console games are still growing. But I think mobile's just gonna get bigger and bigger, man. I mean, even
That's so
altogether
sick.
too, the 2022 total, 203.1 billion. I mean that's even grown 5% year over year. So I mean, altogether, gaming's still growing.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna continue to grow too because we gotta remember, like, not just games being sold and like all this kind of stuff, but like the expansion of games into a public medium like televisions and movies and
Yeah,
just making games overall more accessible. Like there are different niches and communities that are becoming super popular and like more mainstream. And as that grows, people are going to be touching games for the first time ever. And that number is just going to keep going up higher and higher and higher. That like people our age and older who grew up playing video games are going to have children. Their children are eventually going to start playing. It's like it just keeps going. It's a cycle
yeah,
now. It's like an
yeah,
entire like economy that's it's gonna be nuts.
yeah. Definitely gonna be crazy. And yeah, it's only gonna grow. But I think overall, if you want more details on the chart and kind of a further breakdown, we'll of course leave a link to the article in the description because they go into a little detail, but it is a rather short read, so it shouldn't take up too much time if you want to give it a look.
Yeah, two
But
minute read.
the graph alone though, it gives
It's
away
pretty.
most of the most of the info. So